All right, guys, let's go through a few different topics. Um, I guess I should start off by saying, you know, I just posted something on Instagram. A lot of times when I appear to be like ripping on major leaguers or coaches or other swing theories out there, people take it as like what I'm trying to do is bring negativity into the community. And that's not that's not at all how I see that my kind of purpose is. What I'm trying to do is I'm just one person, but I'm trying to bring you my opinion in a truthful manner. Just give you the truth. Because what I see out there in really any instruction, but baseball swing instruction particularly, is it's hard to know who's really telling the truth, or are they speaking uh, to say the right things because of the umbrella that they're under, whether it's a team or an organization of some sort. And it just seems to me like in baseball, everyone's just kind of saying the vanilla stuff, the conventional, safe stuff, and not really, if you go to lessons, people, it's just hard to get them to really open up and let you know what they think truly about certain things. And we're going to talk about the opinion of Chipper Jones. And this is nothing really against Chipper Jones. It's something that I see all the time in former Major League Baseball players, which is people mistakenly think that they should know a lot about the swing. And I did too. I did too. I thought for sure if I could just get a conversation with Don Mattingly, I would have it all figured out. But as time went on, I realized that actually the great hitters are oftentimes some of the last people that you want to go to for swing advice. And I realized this through many years of talking to great hitters in the pros, great hitters on my amateur teams, and just picking their brain and trying to see what they knew. The reason why, I'm kind of getting into a subject I'm going to talk about later anyways, but the reason why I think that they don't know about the swing is because the great hitters, at least this is the way it's been up till now, great hitters are guys who developed a great swing and, yes, a great mentality, or, there are other factors other than a swing, but I do think the swing is kind of like the first ticket in that you need. It's pretty easy. If you have a great swing, it's pretty easy to become a great hitter, because the great swing kind of carries your mental game. It carries your hand-eye coordination in many ways. It kind of allows everything else to flourish. That's the way I see it. If you just have a great mentality or a great, mental game, that's not going to help you when it comes to hitting. Like, you're going to, it can take you somewhat, but it's not going to make you one of the elite power hitters, guys with high power, high average. It just won't. A swing that's not so great, you're probably going to be slapping the ball more. Anyways, sorry, this is a rant. So this is a complete rant. I'm going to touch on many different subjects. I'm even going to talk about the golf swing. Let's get into the first thing. The first thing is I got this email from the ABCA. And it was advertising Rhapsodo. And I just have to give my opinion on this. I don't know how much you guys are hearing this out there, this take that I'm going to give you. I really don't. I purposely separate and distance myself from the baseball culture I like that you guys send me emails and let me know kind of the pulse of the culture. I like the videos that you guys send, so I appreciate that. But I don't embed myself in the culture. So I don't know what people are thinking of stuff like Rhapsodo, except for I have attended an ABCA event, I'd say 3 or 4 years ago, and I got the pulse of the culture a little bit there, in that people are really interested in technology. And there's almost a mad scramble to, it's like a competition, like who can get the best technology. It's surprising to me that people are kind of so gullible as to think that that's the way to do it. My instinct is, if everyone's running in a certain direction, I just feel like it's kind of common sense, especially when that certain direction is almost a competition for who can pay the most money. It's not like they're running towards any sort of work ethic related thing. It's a money grab, and I haven't seen, and my instinct is to run the other way, like to do something almost completely differently than everyone else is doing. The thing with Rhapsodo is people think that just collecting data, it's all, I've said this before, so I apologize if I'm repeating myself, but it's worth talking about, because this is the culture that we're in right now. This is the trend, this move towards technology, this mad scramble towards technology. And I haven't seen, what is Rhapsodo saying that it can do? You're collecting this data. So what is that? First of all, back when I played before there was data, or back whenever, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, before all this data craze, you knew which guys on the team tended to hit the ball the highest or the farthest, or tended to, I mean, it only takes like a week taking batting practice or playing game scrimmages with people to get to know what kind of hitter they are. Does it help to have precise numbers? Possibly, but how? Explain to me how. I think that this is all a part of the Moneyball excitement. People think that, that you can just, I mean, Moneyball was about data collecting. And so people think that you can just collect data and you're going to have an edge in player development too. And it just doesn't work that way. What Rhapsodo says is that, oh, look, we give you all this data. You have measurements for every possible thing, so you can improve your swing, so you can improve your technique. That's a big leap. You're telling me, I mean, it took me 30 years just about to understand the baseball swing the way I understand it, using video, which I think is a much better form of feedback. That was my main source of feedback. Video, the flight of the ball. You're going to tell me that teams who are busy, with the logistics of having a team are going to, in a year or 2 or 3, figure out the swing because they have some numbers on a sheet of paper? People mistakenly think that this figuring out the swing thing, we'll do that in a second. Just give me some numbers and we'll figure it all out. And jokes on them. Jokes on all these coaches who are... the money is an important thing, for sure. The money that they're spending for these things. But I think it's about the time that's really most important. Because if you're even thinking about buying some of this stuff, joke's on you, because you are spending your mental energy thinking about something that is honestly useless. If I was going to get an edge out there in baseball, first of all, obviously I would look into what I'm teaching with the swing, the lead arm dominant stuff. That's where the action really is when it comes to mechanics. But I would take pride in not spending an ounce of energy on things like pitching machines. That's not even high tech, of course, these days. And then the high tech stuff, the Rhapsodo and the all these things that are just a waste of time, honestly. And I know that when a lot of people jump on board on something and you just hear this strange guy on YouTube, spouting an opinion that's counter to what 99.9% of people out there are running towards, it seems ludicrous. But I know that this is all a red herring. All this technology stuff. I haven't seen, how is it paying off? I mean, how is Rhapsodo helping anyone? It's just giving you data. Sure, it might be a fun game. Hey, let me see if I can get my, launch angle to the same number for 3 swings in a row. But to think that it's any more than just some interesting game, and to think that it's going to improve your mechanics, you got to be kidding me. Let me know, guys, if there's someone out there who's some guru who has used Rhapsodo's information and their data and developed a theory of the swing that's worth listening to, or just give me somebody who says, hey, I have a theory of the swing that I developed based on all this feedback that Rhapsodo has given me, and I've crunched the numbers with all these different players and I figured out something. I'd be happy to hear it. I just haven't seen it, and I don't think it's going to happen. So this was an email I got from the ABCA, which honestly, after being to a show, you're not missing anything. It's a racket. It's definitely a racket. I don't know if they ever planned to be anything else, but I think the baseball culture needs something else for these people for this culture to kind of get together and talk more real rather than like, look, if you guys enjoy the ABCA conventions, then I don't want to offend you. But to me, it was a racket. It was more guys looking to do business. It was guys, it was a political sort of atmosphere. There wasn't anything new. You're just going to get, the third base coach at Tennessee and, this ex-major leaguer who's now a hitting coach for this professional team. And that's all great, but that's stuff you can hear the same stuff down the street at your local hitting coach. I mean, why don't they bring in, I'm not a fan of Richard Skank's stuff, but my goodness, he should have already been talking at the ABCA. If they're really interested in getting the cutting edge stuff, at least explore this guy. He is working with the best hitter possibly of all time. Now, there are a lot of, obviously you guys know what I think about that. But the point is, I don't see the ABCA as trying to actually give people new and innovative information as much as they're looking to sell booths, support guys who can help them grow their convention, and it's mostly a racket. I'm just being honest. And again, this is my opinion. It's just one guy's opinion. I'm not saying I'm definitely right, but I hope you guys appreciate that I'm giving you my my honest opinion about what I think. I think that that's the value of this channel, and you don't have to agree with everything I say. I'm not, obviously I'm not correct in everything, but I got to give you what I feel is correct and what's my opinion. I wanted to play a clip from Andrew Huberman, who was on the Joe Rogan Experience. I oftentimes reference the Joe Rogan Experience because I like that podcast and have for many years. Andrew Huberman is like a kind of a health hacker, like scientist guy. Mostly doesn't come up with his own theories, but is one who studies a lot of other people's theories, and just kind of disseminates information on YouTube. Anyways, I thought what he said here was pretty interesting, so let's listen.
Punk rock music, grew up on it. That era in the 80s, punk rock in New York is amazing. Like, but the whole thing, like Beastie Boys, he was close with the Ramones, Joe Strummer, all this, and then hip hop. What he understands, and I can't speak for him, but what he understands is that there's this energy in an early field, let's say of music, where they're not thinking about making money doing it. Like NWA, those guys were just being themselves when they were making music, right? I watched that movie, The Defiant Ones, about Dre and I think it's Jimmy Iovine, about beats, but it's really about the energy of early hip hop. And then they talk about Eminem and a bunch of other things. Or you watch, Rick and I at night, we'd watch Ramones documentaries or Clash documentaries. And it's like, it's the energy of something that's new, where people are just being themselves and they're not thinking about making a ton of money on a record. A really great producer comes in and captures that energy and rolls it forward. And usually what ends up happening is then the general public falls in love with it, and then a bunch of things happen to those people, and then whatever dysfunction exists in their world gets amplified, and then we hear about it. This is kind of a consistent theme over and over. But it's like, and then one of the things that came up when I was visiting Rick is I was like, I feel like I can.
So that's basically the thing. I thought that was really interesting. That's something that I intuitively, I probably couldn't have verbalized it, but before I heard him talk about this, I did feel this intuitively. And this is how I feel about all the generations that came before this one with respect to baseball. I don't know about his statement that they didn't necessarily do it for the money. I think there's an element of that, but there's something about the baseball culture today where they're systematizing everything. It's all factory kind of run, put them through the drills, run them through this system, collect their data, and there's no room, I don't think, for creativity. And people scoff at me saying that the Sandlots were a better breeding ground for great hitters. But I actually don't think there's even any comparison. Look at the great countries right now. The guys who really consistently churn out great hitters. And they don't have even a fraction of the population that we have. Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic. These are countries that still engage in this Sandlot style of play as kids. Now, they're starting to get to where they're drilling kids. Because they mistakenly think that it's so asinine. Like, it's more of an adult thing. It's like adults have the hubris of thinking that if they take the reins of a process, then they're gonna improve the development of the kids in that process. And I'm one to think that if you wanted a kid to learn how to use a computer, I think you'd be better off just leaving that computer in his presence and coming back a couple years later and see what he's done with it, rather than saying, okay, he's got to learn the computer, let me drill him on this lesson and that lesson. I just think that there's something magical that happens when you're able to play in a sport. And people think I'm one of these guys who's like, winning doesn't matter guy. No. I'm saying I think that you will be better in the long run, maybe the short run too, if you're just left to play. And of course, you want people to practice. I mean, practice is important, and I don't know, if guys don't want to practice, you almost have to just let them not practice. I mean, I don't know what this. Yes, there needs to be some discipline, though, and I understand there needs to be some systematizing. But today, it's a racket too. That's another thing. Most of this stuff is just stuff that you don't even realize you're just being sold is the better way. The pitching machines will have you believe that you should be primarily hitting off a pitching machine. And the pitching machines convince the coaches, and the coaches convince you, and the coaches instill this behavior. And no one says, wait a second, maybe it's important for hitters to be able to see the ball out of the hand. That is huge. It's 80% of what pitch recognition is. So you're not getting that when you're hitting off of pitching machines. But people just, I don't know. I've said this before. You guys have heard me talk about this. I don't know if it's this love affair with consumerism. I mean, look, I'm a human like anyone else. I get the rush when you buy something. I get it. It's a huge pull. Whether you're a coach of a multi-million-dollar professional team, or you're a 7-year-old looking to go buy a stick of gum. There's a rush to go buy something. And I think that, that's a distraction. And it's a distraction that these guys back in the earlier days of baseball didn't have. And there's a pureness to that. I think we have a lot to learn about their swings. And that's a lot of my content is about that. You guys know that I think for the most part, they did it better than guys do today. Because the guys today are fiddling with mechanical cues that are just off. They're based on, honestly, I just think it's so weird because I see the whole instructional landscape and I see professional hitters getting instructed, and I think they're not only not correct, but in many instances they're teaching exactly what you don't want to do, which I find just amazing. And it's because, this has to be said too. The reality is we don't have any good way as of now to judge a theory of the swing. We can't say, let's punch Richard Skank's, approach to the swing. He likes this, he likes that, rotate on the back femur, snap from a statue still position, We don't have a way to plug that into a computer and then spit out a score from 1 to 100 and see how good that is. So that leaves open a lot of charlatanism and, guys trying to interpret the situation for you. My dream is to be able to have something that actually can be a cut and dry, this is the best method. And of course, I'm hoping that the method that I espouse will be that cut and dry. Man, no one has ever, in swing instruction, established such a dominant approach. Richard Skank hasn't given us that. I'm talking about, I want to see a guy who had no power, clearly had 3 or 4 years, if not more, of major league experience with not a lot of power. He works with this guy, and then he's got double, triple the power from that point on, and maybe he weighs just 175 pounds. So That would be nice, because then we'd have a cut and dry, for sure. And I think that's going to happen. I think it's coming. So let's take a look at, this is an interesting clip I saw of Michael Harris. Michael Harris, I don't know who he is. Who is he? 195, 6'0", 6 feet, 0 inches, bats left, throws left. Okay. This is him getting some instruction prior to this year. I think I might have been prior to last year. I don't know. Let's look at his performance. Performance seems to be dipping this year quite a bit. Batting average is about 50 points less than it was. Home run production is maybe what he's always been doing. He's got 9 homers in 347 at bats. I don't know what that is. So I just thought this clip was interesting. Let's play it.
Gonna work under his front elbow and then finish his shoot down. What are you seeing, Chipper?
He just got to keep his nose down in there, like as opposed like going and hitting that pitch this way, as opposed to that little bit of recoil.
Okay, so I posted this on Instagram, and people just went crazy. Like, what is he saying that's wrong? I don't understand. There's nothing wrong with what he's saying. He's Chipper Jones. Everything out of his mouth must be correct. And look, as I always say, don't listen to what great hitters say. Watch what they do. Chipper Jones is a stay inside the ball. He's a Cam Wood bats guy. I don't even know why these guys feel the need to teach what they're teaching. It's already been taught, like, for decades. Like, I don't understand what the popularity of Cam Wood bats and their approach is. Oh, they're saying stay inside the ball. How interesting. That's what they've been saying. Like, the only reason why I feel like I should be talking is because my take is different from what has been out there for decades. So I just don't understand the people, and there's a ton of them out there online. That's pretty much all there is. These people who just are out there basically saying the same stuff that's been taught for decades, and getting a lot of like attention and notoriety for it. For what reason? I don't get it. They have not come up with anything new. You can get the same information from your local coach. So the move that he's wanting him to do is this stay inside the ball. You're not rotating your shoulders as much as you are pushing your hands out towards the ball. Yeah, guys, however many different ways I can say it, you know what I'm talking about. It's less body rotation, more independent hand direction out towards the ball. That's what Chipper Jones is advocating for here. Everyone online was like, you know, what's he saying that's wrong? There's nothing that he's saying that's wrong. It's not that I'm against watching the ball. I mean, so many of what these guys teach, I'm not even arguing against. I don't even think it's an issue. It's not that I'm arguing against or for it. The whole keep your head down on the ball, I'm not even discussing that. To me, that's a non-issue. But I know what he's trying to say. He's saying keep your head down on the ball and throw your hands out towards the ball and try to stop your shoulder rotation. That's what all these guys say. It's not that interesting. It's not that, like, mind-blowing. We've heard it 1,000 times. I'm sure your coach has probably said it hundreds of times in your presence. You guys have heard it. I know what kind of action they're wanting.
Hitting that pitch this way, as opposed to that little
See,
bit of
doesn't want to
recoil
pull his
that you
shoulder
have,
out.
trying to get the bat head out, and then immediately swing. I call it east. Swing east, you know, and that's where he's getting the top spin. Keep your nose down in there.
See that move? Now, if we look at a position of his at contact, this is where it's really important, and this is what I touched on earlier. Great hitters, they establish their great swing, right? And at an early age. And here's where the confusion will come in, because they might have a coach somewhere along the way that was a real stay inside the ball guy. And so what happens is, even though they feel like they're doing stay inside the ball or not rotating their shoulders, they still have this great baseline swing. And so whatever they try to feel, they're actually not making a huge change in their mechanics. I've seen this. This is why video is such the best form of feedback, because I've seen great hitters who are trying to do something, and I look at the positions on video and nothing has changed. And I mean, they're trying to do the conventional thing, and their positioning at contact, their positioning at the start of the forward swing doesn't change. It's really actually, it's kind of hard to make a swing change. And so I don't think that most guys go through their career and they don't make any swing change. They might be having a swing thought, but that doesn't mean that they're making a swing change. You can see Chipper Jones had a great position at contact. That's why he's one of the all-time great pound-for-pound hitters. I think he's around 200 all-time. The reason why his positioning at contact was so good is because of how connected he was. And by connected, I mean you have to be well rotated at contact. Just like you see in Griffey. Griffey had the same kind of thing. Griffey's swing to me was overall better. You're going to tend to see him with better positions, in my opinion, than Chipper Jones. And he's a better pound-for-pound hitter. Here's Tony Gwynn. This is kind of, the weird thing is it's really more of a feeling, and you can see it at contact, this stay inside the ball approach. You can see the change in positioning at contact because they're going to tend to be less connected. If you're trying to stay inside the ball, what's weird is even though people try not to rotate open their shoulders, it tends to rotate their shoulders just as much staying inside the ball. But the engine kind of the swing is not the rotation of the shoulders. So it's more a difference in feel. But you can see it in positioning because guys who tend to throw their hands out more will tend to be less connected at contact. This is what you see from Tony Gwynn. Tony Gwynn is everyone thinks he's the god of swing mechanics. Like, he's the ideal, he's the hitter's hitter. Like, he did it right, Meanwhile, John Kruk was a more valuable hitter than Tony Gwynn. He totally neglected the power game. Not totally, he had some home runs. But this stay inside the ball approach is not the best way to do it. You're going to have a lot less power, and power should be part of the game. That's what Ted Williams was always griping about with these slap hitters of the 80s. Like, he didn't understand. You're touching the ball so much. Why are you settling for so little power? And if you want more power, you have to be more connected at contact. And that has to do with being more dominant in your lead arm. Feeling more of that lead side pathway, I should say. So let's continue here. Griffey, another great hitter. And everything I love about his swing, I think he has the best swing of all time. I'm not sure how you could argue otherwise. Everyone says he's got the best looking swing. And And then you look at his results. I mean, 56 homers 2 years in a row. That's crazy. And then injuries kind of plagued his career. But when you put it all together, to me, he had the best swing. And look what he thinks he does. This is not how he swings. He's throwing the hands out. He's swinging down, throwing the hands out, releasing the bat, almost flipping through the ball. So great hitters don't know what they're doing that makes them great. Great segue here. Let's talk about Tiger Woods. Let's talk about the golf swing. Tiger Woods, another one who... This is the most interesting case in the history of swing mechanics to me. And people just don't seem to see it. Here's the greatest golfer of all. He's panning out to blow Jack Nicklaus away. And he decides to make a swing change. Prudent mentality, always looking to get better. You would think that's actually the wise thing to do. Michael Jordan was always looking to get better. The problem is the swing is a mystery. And I think you'd probably be better off just digging it out of the dirt than going out and seeing professionals out there who teach the swing. You're going to get all mixed up. You're going to be all twisted up like a pretzel, especially in the era that Tiger Woods went out there and explored all these swing coaches. But even now, I don't think... I have a book about the golf swing, so I have my own understanding of what I think the secret to the swing is. And it has to do with lead arm dominance. I think that's all Tiger Woods has ever needed. He's just needed a little less back arm involvement and feeling more of the lead side pathway. That would have gotten him what he wanted, which was a flatter club in the downswing earlier. But what conventional instruction teaches about having a flat swing earlier is hip-shoulder separation. They teach, literally everything you don't want to do. They teach trying to keep the hands in front of the chest. So they teach take your backswing and then let your hands drop and then turn. All these things that are really going to lead you in the opposite direction. So let's take a look at Tiger's swing when he was in college. And I just want to point out some of the movements. Probably the main obvious difference. When he got to the top here, his hips would hang out in a closed kind of position. There'd be almost this pause at the top where he would just kind of gather himself and he would keep his hips closed. And then he would kind of slowly start to rotate and then get in the squat position here. And that would give his club, that would give his club time. That little movement at the start would give his club time to get square. Now, here's what he didn't like. Here's kind of a sign of what he didn't like. See this flip action here. You can see how the club and the back arm are starting to get out of alignment, which says that there's a little bit of flip. That's the main thing. And the only thing he had to do to get rid of that is to swing with just his lead arm and feel more of that lead side pathway. If you swing, golfers out there, if you swing with just your lead arm, preferably with a small club, because it's just easier to get the same tempo that you would have with two hands and a regular size club, using a small club with just your lead arm. But if you swing it, you will see this drop action happen naturally in the start of the downswing. I watched Tiger Woods go out like everyone else. I was following what he was doing, and I was like, this is really interesting, because he's going out and getting the same instruction that I was getting, and I was finding that it was terrible. So I was like, how is this going to pan out for him? Because I know from my experience that they're not really teaching anything different at the higher levels. It's not like, oh, you get to Tiger Woods' coach and it's a different thing. Now they're teaching secret stuff that you don't really know about. No. Whether it's baseball or golf, they're teaching the same stuff. The conventional stuff is the conventional stuff, and it's being taught from the little league all the way up to the pros. It's being taught from junior golf all the way up to the pros. So this is the kind of stuff that Tiger started working on. This Sean Foley stuff. This is just making your swing tight for the sake of making your swing tight. But it also has to do with, this is what they thought shallowed the club. But look how tight his swing is. I mean, he is as stretched as he can be, and it's not a fluid, smooth action. I mean, look at this action. So that's the kind of stuff that... Oh, here's Gary Player. I'm so glad Gary Player said this. Let's listen.
Why did Tiger do that? He was so good, but if he just went along and never changed, he would have won minimum 22, maybe more. He would have gone down as the greatest athlete the world had ever seen, man or woman. So for me, I look at all...
That's an interesting statement. And I think it's 100% true. Had he just stuck with his swing... Now, that's not to say I don't think he should have made a swing change. I already said, I think all he needed to do is feel more lead side pathway. But 100%. You know, people think that it was his mental game and his family troubles. I don't think so. And I'm pretty sure that it wasn't. I think it had to do with his swing. And I think he was struggling so hard with his swing. And over the years, his ball striking just got worse and worse. Did it happen like a light switch after working with these guys? No. And even if you see him strike balls now, it would be an unbelievable show. But he has a level of hand-eye and just raw talent of squaring the club to the ball that even though he's getting in these worse positions through his swing, he's able to still make the adjustments when it comes into contact. But he's able to make them less and less because there's so much more flip, even more flip now than there was back in 2000.
These top players can't play anymore. Tiger Woods eventually said, well, I'm going back to the way I used to swing, and won the Masters.
Yeah, but he still has a lot of his new swing. I mean, here's the Sean Foley stuff. You can see it right here. So you can see there's no hanging out in that backswing position of his hips. Watch his hips. What he's doing, guys, is there's this thing in swing instruction where everyone thinks Ben Hogan's swing is the thing to copy. And what Ben Hogan appeared to do is he had very little time between his backswing and his downswing. It was like he combined them. He already started his downswing before his arm and hands were going back. That's the way Ben Hogan did more lead side pathway. That was his feel for the lead side working all by itself, if that makes sense. Okay? It doesn't have to be everybody's. Everyone should do lead side pathway the way they want to do it. That's the great thing about it, is it leaves open individualism. You know, creativity. Do it your own way. But what you definitely need is to feel more lead side pathway. So you can see Tiger's got this, look how his hips start down and open. See that move? He worked a lot on this move. Basically opening the hips before the club was finished coming back. That wasn't his style. If you look at him when he swung when he was just 3 and 4 years old, he went back, his club kind of bounced off his back as he hung out there for a second. He waited for the club to get down here, and then he went hard. So now he's kind of going back and he's starting his downswing before the club is finished going. It's a completely different kind of style of swing. It was Hogan's swing. And then that leaves him flipping at the ball even more. You can see he's just all crunched up at contact. I mean, to me, this right here is a terrible position. This right here is I think his swing now is worse than it's ever been. I've seen recent swings. He's actually coming over the top. And there you can see that move again. See that move where his hips are starting to go open. And now look at him. Look at him raise up through contact. He's running out of space. This is kind of the bad thing about being such a great player that's played since he was 3 is that you can make bad swing adjustments look good for a long time. And they won't really rear their ugly head until you're in a competition moment that's, maybe a little tense. And then it's going to rear its head. So you can sit on the practice tee and make this new adjustment look like, oh my God, it's the greatest thing. And there you can see it again. Look how those hips start going down. He's headed towards the squat early, kind of leaving the club back. Meanwhile, he's still overexerting his back arm, which is the main problem from the start, and now he's flipping, and it's just a completely different swing. I mean, if you look at the two swings, just look at late 1990s Tiger swing versus like 2010. It's incredible how much it's changed. It just looks, I mean, do just the eye test, As I've said before to you guys, you only need to use your instinctual sense of detecting like beautiful movement, which we all have. We can see whether someone's moving beautifully or not pretty easily. And Tiger's swing has gotten to where it's not even, it actually doesn't have much beauty to it at all anymore for me. But if you look at his 1997, 96, 95 swings, they were clearly better. I mean, it's like Ernie Els, Fred Couples kind of movement. Anyways, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.